Hello everybody and welcome to Miss Duckworth's Exam Bites. Each of these short tutorials will give you a clear and concise overview of a different exam paper. Today we're going to be looking at English Language Paper 2 and this is for the CIE IGCSE. So let's go through a quick overview of this paper. Now this paper is split into two sections. You have Section A, which is directed writing, which is worth 40 marks. Section B, which is your composition, which is also worth 40 marks. So there it's 2 hours, 2 sections and 80 marks equally divided across the two different sections. So Section A is your directed writing. This is going to be based on 1 or 2 texts totaling 650 to 750 words in length. So you may get 1 text, you may get 2 depending on the length of them, and you must use those to help you with your answer. You've got to write between 350 and 450 words. Question is assessed for both reading and writing. Even though this is mainly a writing paper, you do still get some marks for reading, and this is the question where those marks come from. So 25 marks for writing and then just 15 marks for reading. You'll be asked to create a discursive, argumentative, persuasive response in your own words in one of the following text types: a speech, letter or an article. So do make sure you know the features of these different types of writing, but also make sure that you understand the features of these different forms as well. So Section B, which is your composition, you have to choose one question from a selection of 4, and you can choose to either write a narrative piece or a descriptive piece. Again, you must write between 350 and 450 words, and again this is just for writing, so everything that you're being assessed on for Section B is just on your writing skills. So let's have a quick look at Section A. This again is your reading and your writing. So what are you tested on? You're tested on your ability to understand both explicit and implicit meanings within the text, your ability to select relevant information and utilise that, so you should be able to synthesise the information within the text, good understanding of the text or the texts themselves. You must be able to analyse, evaluate and develop, so you're developing the facts, the ideas and the details from the original text and you're using it yourself. You have to make sure that you're writing a clear, coherent, well-structured and accurate response, because remember you are assessed for writing for this particular question. So how should you answer? So make sure that you read the question and you underline the keywords. Identify the fact, which is the form, the audience, the purpose and the perspective. So you can see I've got an example question over here. So your question is: imagine you are a pupil in a school which does not have a school council. Write a speech to be given to a school assembly. So already you can see the form is a speech, the audience, you're delivering it to people within a school assembly, the purpose, so you're giving your views on whether or not students should participate in decisions made about the school, and your perspective, you are a pupil. Okay, so all this information is given in the question, so do make sure that you can understand it. Make sure as well that you understand the bullet points here in your speech. You should. It tells you what you should be doing as you're writing through your speech, so you're evaluating the views given in both texts. As I said, that is a key skill over here, and that's one of your reading skills. So do you understand the text and can you evaluate the different ideas that are given, and can you then talk about the pros and cons of each and kind of make a decision if you're being asked to give your views or ultimately decide on something. You must give your own views based on what you have read about whether a school council would benefit students and teachers. So again, look at what you've read and then make your own decision based upon all the information that you've been given. Read through the passage. So I've given you some suggested timings here that may help you. So you could possibly just split your time in 2, so you may have 1 hour for Section A, 1 hour for Section B, or you might give yourself a few extra minutes for Section A because of the reading elements. Completely up to you. So read through the passage around 15 minutes, just make sure you understand. You might decide to underline or highlight anything that stands out for you that's interesting, and then once you've done that you can plan your ideas. So you want to plan what you want to say throughout the entire essay. This will help you with the structure, the coherence, the fluency of your ideas, but also it helps to make a plan so you can just make sure that you're addressing the different bullet points here and you're making sure that you're doing exactly what the question has asked you to do. Planning also helps you to figure out how you are going to use the text to help you and how you're going to evaluate what you've learned. And then you want to write up your response, giving yourself enough time to go through, check, edit, make any corrections if you need to. Now, if you do want a more detailed overview of how to answer this question, then do please have a look at my longer YouTube tutorial, which goes through exactly how to plan this, what to do with the text, also goes through a model answer. So that is in the playlist for language paper 2. Now, what are you assessed on? So you've got your reading criteria, so your ability to select appropriate evidence. Again, it's in your own words, but you are using the evidence from the text to help you with your views and your ideas, so you want to make sure that it's clear how you've used that. Making inferences, so based upon what is said, what do you think is hinted or suggested? Everything must be derived from the text. Show the examiner how you are using it, but develop the ideas that are presented by using inference. You can also look for bias within the text, so look at the context of the text. You're usually given at the top in italics, you're given an overview of where the text is from, so sometimes there is bias within these texts depending on who is writing and why they're writing them. Want to demonstrate a range of skills by looking at both explicit and implicit meanings as well as evaluating. Now, your writing criteria. Make sure that you're writing in the correct form for the correct purpose and audience, using connectives to link ideas, range of different sentence types, correct and effective use of punctuation, clear paragraphs. Your paragraphs will help you with your clear organisation of ideas and make sure that there's a structure to what you're writing. Links and transitions between ideas and paragraphs. Make sure everything is fluent and clear. Accurate spelling and grammar. Rhetorical devices throughout, which actually help you with the type of writing that you're being asked to do here. And purposeful use of ambitious vocabulary. So which skills are needed here? Now, definitely I've said a few times here evaluation. So how successfully has the writer achieved their purpose? What do you think about their ideas? What are the pros and cons? Assimilation. So show how you've taken in and understood the main points and ideas from the text. Synthesis. So this is a shortened version of the most important ideas written in your own words. It's where you combine the ideas from the text with your own point, your own argument or your own judgment, so they kind of interleave together. And your personal response. So as the question says, you have to give your own views. So you want to make sure that you're giving your own ideas, your own views with regards to the text and the question. Think about your response to the text in terms of the question and the way in which you've chosen to answer it, the direction that you've decided to go in. Okay, and section B, this is your writing section. So you are tested on your ability to write for the correct purpose. This is either you are writing a narrative piece or a descriptive piece. Some of the skills and techniques definitely do cross over, but narrative and describe are actually quite different in terms of how they look on the page and how they progress. Again, if you want more information on that, do see my other YouTube tutorials on language, paper 2, section B. You must be able to engage your reader. It must be interesting and engaging right from the very beginning. You must show that you can use a range of techniques that are appropriate to the purpose that you have chosen. So you choose, are you writing a descriptive or are you writing a narrative piece, and just choose one of these. Your ability to create a piece of writing that's interesting and engaging, your ability to explore a variety of different images. So that's what you're doing for your reader. You're creating images. So you want to make sure that the imagery that you use is quite rich and it really helps the reader to understand what you're trying to portray. You've probably heard this phrase quite a lot, and it's show, don't tell. So rather than telling your reader that the environment was very calm, why don't you describe it? Maybe describe the breeze or the trees. Your ability to maintain a clear and purposeful structure, chronology. So this is important regardless of whether you are describing or whether you're writing a narrative piece. It must be clear how ideas are progressing, how they are linked, how you're making transitions, how you're getting from the beginning to the end, how the beginning and the end are even linked together. Effective use of vocabulary. You want to try and make sure that your vocabulary is ambitious as well and it's interesting. Accurate and purposeful use of punctuation and sentence types. So how should you answer? So obviously your first step is choose a question, have a read of them all. You probably at the time that you go into the exam will know already which you are stronger on, whether you prefer to describe or whether you prefer to narrate. That might help you a little bit. Choose a question that you like, that you think that you've already got inspiration for, but also remember that you can do a lot with these questions. You can take them in any direction, so don't feel restricted. Then you brainstorm just a variety of ideas, and sometimes I like to call this a brain dump. Just throw all your ideas down on the paper. And then once you've got all these ideas, then you can start thinking, okay, all right, well actually I think that this idea and this idea over here, they go together. And they also link to this one, so I'm going to put number 1 next to all of those different 3 ideas, and they're actually going to be paragraph 1. So then you start to organise, you start to number things, thinking about the chronology, the order, how it's going to flow, and then you can start to add techniques to your plan. So you might think, okay, well in paragraph 1 I'm going to talk about these different things, but I'm going to include personification and a metaphor, and I think I'm also going to include a short sentence here. So also think about how you are going to show that you are using the different skills required. Then write up your answer. Do stop and check after each paragraph just to make sure that you're meeting the success criteria, just to make sure that you're using a variety of different techniques. You don't want to just use metaphors all the way through. You want to make sure that you've got a variety. Now for narrative, because it is a little bit different to describe, do remember that when you're planning a narrative piece, you must consider the beginning, the middle and the end. Obviously you do still need to do that with describe. Definitely don't forget to do that. Describe cannot just be just a lot of different ideas randomly put together. But for narrative, because you've got a plot in there, you must really consider how things are progressing. How is the beginning linked to the ending? So do think about your ending first of all. Think about, okay, this is where I want this to go, now how am I going to get there? How will you use the different features of narrative writing? Make sure that you've got setting, you've got plot, you've got characters. How will you make it interesting? Don't overdo it on dialogue. Do make sure that you show and you don't tell. Try and see if you've got a climax somewhere. Think about tension, suspense. Think about how you are progressing through the narrative. How are you moving it forward? Every paragraph must have a purpose with regards to moving this forward. How's it going to end? Think about what's the conflict that you want to introduce. What's the climax? How will you get there quickly? Remember that you don't really have a lot of time to do this, so you don't want it to be too long and boring, but you also want to make sure that you get to finish before the time runs out. And for your success criteria, obviously make sure you're using the correct features for the correct form. So, if you are describing, just make sure you're clear on how that's different to narrative writing. Use a range of descriptive techniques regardless of which one of those you choose. Clear structure. Ideas and descriptions should progress. You want to pull your reader through regardless of which type of writing you've chosen, and they should be able to see how things are moving, how things are progressing or developing. Interesting vocabulary, range of different sentence types, different ways of beginning sentences. So you're going to begin a sentence with a simile, you're going to begin a sentence with a subordinate clause. You're going to try and mix it up a little bit. Use of punctuation to effectively control ideas. This is how you control your reader. You will tell your reader when to pause. You will control how they read your sentences if you are using punctuation properly. Do check your spelling. Tense is a big one actually. Do check that you're writing in an appropriate tense, and as you go through, do check that you haven't swapped your tenses. That's why I say to you, do just check at the end of each paragraph, just reread it, and how does it sound, how does it follow up in the paragraph before. Think about the tense that you use in paragraph 1 and try and stick to that tense unless there is a reason why you need to switch tenses. So for example, if you're doing a flashback. Use of paragraphs to control ideas. Different range of paragraph length. So you may have a really short paragraph to build up tension, to move the reader forward relatively quickly. Think about how you're linking between paragraphs. You're doing that, you're repeating words and phrases, for example, repeating an image to kind of push your reader through the paragraphs, but also to help them understand how they're all linked together. And interesting opening and ending. That's where you're going to really affect your reader the most, and you can possibly link them. You can have a circular structure, or you can change the mood or atmosphere from paragraph 1 to the final paragraph. There are a range of different things that you can do there to make it engaging. So thank you very much for taking part in this lesson. If you would like a student-friendly version of this tutorial, there is a guide. So I've also created a PDF student guide which you can download for free. All you need to do is go to my website and you can find this in the student zone. So I hope that's been helpful for you. Thank you very much. Goodbye.